Welcome to Navigating Life After 40, the podcast that's all about helping women navigate this exciting and sometimes challenging phase of life. I'm your host, Ronnie J, and I'll be here sharing some of my own personal experiences, chatting with experts and a few friends, and also providing some practical advice and support to help you live your best life after 40. Let's get started. Hi, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Navigating Life After 40. I am your host, Ronnie, and I am here today with Lilli. Welcome to the podcast, Lilli.
Thank you so much, Ronnie. I'm excited to be here. I always love talking about love, so I'm excited to see where this goes.
I'm excited to have you here because this has been a hot topic for my community of women. And also just navigating midlife and dating. And there's so much going on right now. So I cannot wait to talk about this and dive further into this conversation. But before we kick things off, I love to do icebreakers with some of my guests, especially depending on the topic. And so I have one for you that I would love to hear your input on. And that is, tell us something unexpected or funny that's happened to you on a first date.
Ooh, unexpected or funny. It's hard to not go into like negative thinking
Yeah.
about that particular topic because my mind goes right towards like worst date stories and worst date scenarios, which I know, I don't know if you're single, Ronnie, whoever you are, whoever in the audience is single, but that's exactly where my mind goes is first date stories, first date or second date for that matter, like stories. So I guess in hindsight, this would be kind of funny, but I remember one time I was on a first date. You know how like when you go on a first date, you almost immediately know like if they're gonna be like trash for you or you know that they're not gonna be a good match for you, but you're about to sit down to drinks or you're about to sit down to dinner. And I don't know if anyone in the audience or you're like me, Ronnie, but like I haven't always done the best of like speaking up for myself because I wasn't really taught that. Like didn't really have a great model in my house of what a good relationship is or how your voice can actually be safe or wanted.
Yeah.
And my relationships followed that pattern. And so it just kind of takes me back to a time of, going on a first date and like almost again, like almost immediately kind of knowing that that person wouldn't be good for me, but then being scared to say that right off the bat. And so like
Yeah.
stuck at a date, stuck at a bar, going in the bathroom, texting my friends, like, all of the things and just like being so nervous just to say, sorry, this isn't for me. Like now, today, transforming into the woman that I transformed into, it's easy to speak up for my needs and desires. And I guess I just get this picture of myself in my head of just sitting on the toilet in the bathroom and texting my friends and like overthinking, like, what should I do? What should I say? How do I say this? And being really just nervous about that whole thing. So I think that's funny. I mean, it's not like hilarious slap your knee funny, but it is funny because I look back on the woman that I was and the woman that I am today. And I think in that date in particular, I think what I ended up doing is just like ghosting him and not even going back to the bar because I was so scared. Because I was so scared of what his reaction was. And I remember because I walked out of the restaurant and I did end up texting him and he was freaking pissed. But I mean, that's where my mind went. And sadly, that was kind of a common kind of pattern and cycle that I went through is just hating the dating process. I would tell myself that dating sucks. My friends, that's all we would talk about. Dating sucks. With my family, dating sucks. And we can talk more about that, through our conversation today. But that's immediately where my mind went, Ronnie. I don't know if you've ever been there before yourself.
Yeah, dating does suck. I would say my funny story, the one that comes top of mind, and I don't know if it was funny, but I would say more irritating, I went on a date with this guy and we went to the movies, and it was one of the theaters where you can eat while you're watching the movies, and the people bring you the food and stuff. And
Mhm.
so I asked
Mhm.
the one of the people who worked there, I asked them where was the restroom. And when they told me, I had told the guy, I said, I'll be right back. I have to run to the restroom. And so he got upset, like he was pissed. And he was like, you should have told me because I could have gotten up earlier and move. And I'm like, and first of all, you didn't have to move. I don't know if he was thinking he had to get up and pull my chair out, which is fine, nothing's wrong with that.
Mhm.
But to me, this wasn't that serious in the moment. And so he had this really nasty attitude. So I went to the bathroom and I called one of my friends who lived nearby and I asked her to come pick me up. And she said, well, I'm with my
Mhm.
kids right now. I said, well, can you bring them with you?
This
And
is
so
critical.
yes, I said, "Bring them with you. This is a 911 emergency. I need to
Mhm.
leave because this guy is cray cray. I need to go."
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
she came and got me. I left, and I left him there. So, I guess I have a ghosting story too. I left him there
Yeah.
because I'm like, it wasn't that serious to me for you to have this attitude, and so, of course, he was upset. And, funny I guess the funny part now is we are friends. He and I
Oh,
were
that is
friends, but I would never, ever, ever go on a date with him again. Very
Mhm.
much aware of that, like, you will never have another opportunity to take me anywhere. But, yeah, the funny part is we're friends now, so strange, but, yeah, over the years, we've ended up becoming friends, so my funny, not so funny story.
Similar, probably very familiar to a lot of the women that are listening.
But yeah, you're right. I think and kinda like you not really having that model or learning how to just go and speak up, not like I am
Mhm.
today. Today, it's like, yes, I
Mhm.
can say, "No, this isn't for me. It's not gonna work. It was a pleasure meeting you."
Mhm. Mhm.
But back then, no, no.
Mhm.
I was
Mhm.
like, "Mm-mm, I'm just gonna go and let you hang and you figure it out." But we forget that men have feelings too.
Mhm. Everyone does, yeah.
Yeah, they have feelings too, and we think it's just us and women, and they have feelings too. And so we have to also be mindful of respecting them the same way we want to be respected as well. So,
Mm.
yeah. All right. So, I want to dive into your story. I know you talk a lot about, from surviving to thriving in love and amongst a few other things. And so, I want to know what was life like for you before you found alignment in love and
Mm.
purpose?
Great question, Ronnie. My life was unfulfilling, chaotic, isolating, confusing, frustrating. It was very strange because I was very good at a lot of things in life. I don't know, you're probably a lot like me. I'm getting the feeling, Ronnie, but I was really good at a lot of things in life, meaning like
Mhm.
I was good at sports. I got straight A's. I got great jobs. I made great money. I was good in my business, drove the cars, got the house. What I could not seem to figure out was having a healthy relationship. So, like, where I am today is basically a version of myself that I never knew that I could be. And it's
Yeah.
this version that we'll probably talk about it. It's called the magnetic woman. And that's what I aspire to be and what my clients aspire to be. And I guess in some ways throughout my life, I was the magnetic woman, but the magnetic woman to people that didn't honor me, people that tore me down instead of filling me up,
Mhm.
people that benefited from me staying small, right? Through this transformational process that I took myself through because I got to a point where I was just tired of being sick and tired. I was tired of the
Mhm.
same thing happening again and again and again and again. And after that breakdown, I realized that things needed to change. And what I
Yeah.
saw was this thing that I gotten really good at, which is getting affirmations and getting validation from people outside of me, but I didn't feel it inside of myself. So there were some holes inside of myself that needed to be filled. And so I embarked on this journey of healing, of transformation, of mentorship, of therapy, of workshops, of really taking a look inside of myself where I needed to come into, like you said before, Ronnie, to come into alignment with who I was. I think
Mhm.
every woman or every man anyone, I think, in the world wants to be loved for who they are and
Mhm.
not what they do. I
Yeah.
was really good at getting love for what I did, but not for who I was because I didn't know who I was. And so, like, hour after hour, day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, did this work, did this journey, and did this process. And so today, I'm in the most amazing relationship with the most amazing man, the best man I've ever met in my life that I knew almost immediately was an amazing match for me because of all the things that I have had healed and the skills that I learned and the intuition that I began to reconnect with inside of my body, the self-trust and self-compassion that I redeveloped inside of myself. And he really showed me that this work that I had done was not only possible, but like right there in front of me. So through my journey, I started to take other women through this process that I went through, and they started to see their healing. And then they started to see their results on the outside, which was attracting their dream partner. And so, again, I haven't always been this way, but this is what I do. It's like, it's my passion, it's my purpose now.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And especially it sounds like what you were able to learn about yourself and how you decided to get the help and the support you need. It kind of opened up the door for the love that you have today.
Oh, yeah, 1000%. 1000%. Because cycles and patterns are, first of all, they're normal, especially again, if
Mhm.
we've come from places that we didn't maybe receive the best modeling, probably our parents. Also, if we've had some things happen to our in our lives, which at this point at 40 and above, we definitely have divorce,
Mhm.
multiple divorces, trauma, relationships, all of these things. So all of it really makes sense. But then we kind of lose our power. So in order to take our power back, we have to do the inner healing work. And patterns and cycles, they absolutely can be broken. They absolutely can be rewired, but it takes some subconscious and unconscious work in order to get there. And that's really what I help my clients do is to rewrite and rewire their patterns and their cycles so it's actually fulfilling instead of taking away, dating in particular.
I love that. Were there any other patterns that you noticed or really that you used prior to getting the help and the support that you needed?
Of course. So, probably what you know about me is that I work within the feminine dating archetypes. So, if
Mhm.
you're a woman out there and you are dating, or even if you're in relationship, you fall into one of four different feminine dating archetypes, and it's all about patterns. That's it.
Yeah.
So, for like 3 decades, I was the chill woman, and the chill woman um, is very anxious and overthinks a lot during the dating process inside of herself. She tends to be intimate probably too quickly than she should because she really wants connection. She really wants
Mhm.
connection with that person. She tends to kind of self sacrifice her needs and her wants and desires. And that's the chill woman. The chill woman is very nice, very loving, has an open heart, but she tends to get ghosted a lot and she doesn't understand why. I don't know if you used to be the chill woman or if you are the chill woman, but I'd love for you to take the quiz. I'd love to hear what your
Oh,
archetype is.
oh, I'm gonna take it. This is interesting. I am going to take it. And I know we're gonna dive more into the archetypes here in a minute, but you pointed out something when you were talking about the chill woman. You made me think about this dating coach that I follow on social media. And he breaks down some of the patterns that women have in their relationships are also things that they do in their like in their careers. He compared it to like the careers for women who are in the helping profession. They may
Mm-hmm.
be the ones who are a little bit too giving
Mm-hmm.
um of themselves and those type of things. And then he mentions the ones who are in the medical field. They may be a different type of way. And I'm wondering, is that something that you've been able to recognize in your work with women? Is their what they do in their career, it often shows up in their dating relationships.
Yeah, 1000%, Ronnie. A pattern is a pattern is a pattern.
Yeah.
A pattern will run in our lives with money, with
Mhm.
family, with self, with romantic relationships, with friendships, with job. Absolutely. A lot of most of my clients are in that helping profession, right? Because there's a certain part of them that feels worthy if they're helping others. But the thing is that we're actually worthy just because we're breathing air. We're
Mhm.
actually worthy just because we are here on this earth. We're actually worthy just as who we are. And so there's a lot of unraveling that has to happen with that kind of pattern. My clients are lawyers, they're nurses, they're coaches, they're therapists, they're counselors. And that is definitely, if you're a mom, when someone asks you who you are, most women will say, "Well, I'm a nurse, I'm a mom, I do it too. I'm a coach," right? In the end, those patterns get really ingrained in us, because it kind of becomes our identity. And the hard thing is that when we are looking for a spiritual, healthy, epic love relationship and we're running those patterns, we are not going to attract the right person. So we have to, I see your face. So we have to do the unconscious and subconscious work. So here's what's tricky about this, Ronnie, is that I know you're smart and I know the women that are listening to this are smart. And so you've probably gotten to a lot of the conscious awareness about like what your patterns are, how you want to be as a person, how you want to be as a woman, but there are some subcurrents happening, some underlying things that you just can't get to. And that's where I come in. And so it's all about, again, relearning about who you are. Like we
Mhm.
are divine creatures. We are beautiful. We are worthy as we are, but parts of us do not understand that. And those are parts that go way back, childhood, even maybe before childhood. Maybe it comes from a pattern from your mom or from your grandmother or all of those things. And so that's the deep level work.
Like that. And I actually fall in a few of those categories of the career women
Uh,
that you mentioned. And I remember the first time I heard that, I said, "What? Is that why I'm having so many issues when it comes to dating?" Could be. But I cannot wait to take this quiz so that I can find out who I am because I
mm,
might need a coach in my life.
whatever you want, girl. I'm here for you and your audience right now. I'm completely present with whatever comes up.
Yeah, because my question is, and I know it just comes down to doing the work, and a lot of it is really doing the work, investing in yourself to make those changes, and so that may be therapy, hiring a coach who has been successful in helping women break these cycles, such as yourself, and also sometimes there are other things out there, self-help books, maybe podcasts, things like that. So I know that, and I was just thinking when you were talking, well, how do you break these cycles, And I know you mentioned some goes to childhood and things that we were taught there. And I know even for myself, as you were speaking, I was able to recognize a behavior of taking care of someone else. And I'll say a man. I remember
Mhm,
growing up, it
mhm,
was my responsibility to fix my dad's lunch and
mm,
to iron his pants for work.
mm, mm,
And so I found in my relationships, I became more giving than what I was receiving.
mhm,
And so it wasn't until later where I was like, you know what? I have to pause this. I mean, I still got
mhm,
some work to do. So if y'all
mhm.
listening, don't judge me.
We
But I
all
still
we
got
all
some
do.
work to do.
We all do.
Because I think for me that has been also a part of a fear of jumping back in because I'm like, I have to set the boundary of not giving too much of myself in this particular way. And
Mhm,
opening the door, or better yet, just creating a space to allow myself to receive more
mhm,
as well. And
mhm,
so those things came up for me when you were talking. And I'm sure some of the women who are listening, I know a lot of my audience also falls within that helping profession. And I hear that often from women is, why they do all of these things for a man and they're wanting to these, stuff to be reciprocated.
mhm.
And it's not always
Yeah,
happening the way that they want. And so,
absolutely. Wouldn't that be great? Wouldn't that
yeah,
be great if someone poured into you as much as you pour into others?
yeah, would be awesome.
Mhm,
We also, and that leads me to like just my next question is why is it so difficult to date?
mhm,
Like, why is dating such a challenge for women now? And I know it's maybe in the 20s and the 30s as well. But I know women in midlife now I'm hearing more conversation about it being such a challenge for them, for us. Why is it so hard to date right now?
Yeah, great question. So, two parts to that, Ronnie. The first part is that the way that I see dating is that, and I think, I don't know if you're spiritual at all, but I think
Mhm.
I say God a lot, universe, creator, whatever word that you want to use. But I believe that dating, which I also call Trigger Town, like dating is like going to Trigger Town, no doubt.
Mhm.
Dating is an opportunity to learn more about who we are. That's why it's hard. And so if you're a woman that wants to be better, if you're a growth oriented person, if you really like know that you deserve better, but it's not showing up in real life, and you're a woman that gets things done, then of course it's going to be hard because every
Mhm.
time it's hard is an opportunity for more growth and more learning. So that's like the like conceptual view. The practical view is that I used to run that story too. Dating sucks. Dating sucks. Dating sucks. Everyone's why are the apps so hard? All the things. The thing is that it's not that dating sucks. It's that your experience with dating sucks. So your work is to change the experience. So we start from the inside. We start with your nervous system. I call it your dating nervous system. And your dating nervous system, if you're not aligned and calm and confident and centered, then you're going to be making some bad choices for sure. Okay, that's step one. Step two is healing past wounds. You've ever wondered why, like, a part of you thinks this person is good, but the other part of you doesn't? Or if you've gone to your friends and your family to get their advice and it's like their voices in your head and not yours. It's because you're picking people from a wounded place. You're picking the wrong people from a wounded place. So step two is healing your past wounds. Step three is inner alignment inside of yourself. So I'm guessing, Ronnie, please tell me if I'm wrong on this, but I think that you're the goddess woman. And the goddess woman has done a lot of work, but she's hitting like kind of a glass ceiling. She has the characteristics of what she wants in a dream partner, but that is not showing up in real life. There's a misalignment of, right. There's a misalignment of what she knows that she deserves, but what is actually happening. So that tells me that there's something in there, and this is my gift, like this is what I do, but there's something in there about a misalignment. And that's where this inner alignment comes into play. Is after we get your inner alignment right, your highest self is the one that's presenting. Your highest self that already knows, and what I call the magnetic woman, she's that woman that has that energy of confidence, of calm, connectedness, right? That I saw in my life, but I didn't know that I could be like that. Right. And so that's step three. Step four is to master modern dating. So this is all what I do in my programs. And mastering modern dating is more than just tips and tricks and hacks. This is like very, very subjective. Like, Ronnie, you and I would talk after doing this foundational work. This is after the foundational work, right? This cannot happen correctly until the foundational work has been established. But after that, we can be like, okay, Ronnie, like what makes you feel safe? What would you like? What do you desire? And we start to communicate in ways where our desires are almost like a beacon for the type of person that you are attracting. Your
Mhm.
actions are going to start to line up with your words. Your thoughts are going to start to line up with your emotions. Your beliefs, like who you are as a person, are going to all start to align. So that's the practical way. But then there's also the idea of like, of course it's going to be hard because dating is calling you to rise to a level of self that you have not been able to get to yet.
Yeah, I like that. I like the breakdown. And yes, you had me right on point. The goddess woman who, yes,
Yeah.
I've hit the ceiling and I'm not getting anything. So I am definitely that woman. And as you were talking, I pay attention. It made me also think about just conversations that I see because I'm always on social media and dating always seems to be one of those common themes that I'm seeing a lot.
Mhm.
And it's always the women who are so discouraged or they have checked out of the dating game. What advice would you give to them because now it's so many of them just say, you know what, I'm done. I would rather
Mhm,
be single. I would rather
mhm,
be by myself.
mhm,
And I'm sure a lot of it has to do with, past experience
mhm,
or maybe some sort of trauma that has happened. But a lot
mhm,
of them, they really have checked out now. And
mhm.
it's sad to see. But I'm curious to know, what advice would you have to them?
Great question. So, first of all, they're not alone. I went through what I call the delete and download cycle on the apps. Like that again and again and
Did that.
again and yeah, again and again. Okay, so you're not alone. There's an archetype called the fortress woman, and the fortress woman has been hurt many times by love before. There's a lot of pain associated with potentially dating. There's a lot of pain associated with vulnerability, opening her heart, having hope even is really hard for her.
Mhm.
And it's a
Mhm.
protective pattern. That's it. And so, just like you said, Ronnie, there's probably really good reasons for that. And our past is always going to tell us, because it's a protective pattern,
Yeah.
our past is going to tell us that the experience that you are going to have going forward in dating is going to be the same as it was before. But the truth is that that doesn't have to be the case. The truth is that you can learn how to trust yourself. So the healing for the fortress woman is about trust and
Mhm.
vulnerability. There are ways for you to learn how to trust yourself to pick the right people, because you haven't picked the right people in the past. Your face.
Yes. I've
So you,
dated I've, I've dated some guys and just I've not always picked the right one. So
yeah.
yes.
Because you haven't known how, right? You haven't known how. And so there's healing work to be done. And how do I date and not get hurt, right? Because the fortress woman only knows dating, pain. Dating equals pain. So of course you're not going to date if
Mhm.
equals pain. Of course, like, you're amazing on your own. You're an independent woman. You get your own money. You do your own things, but that doesn't mean that dating equals pain. It
Yeah.
just means that there are things to look inside of yourself about, can I trust myself to pick the right person? Does vulnerability feel weak?
Mhm.
Every woman wants to come home from being a boss and just like having like these big arms wrapped around her and feeling loved and protected, feeling like that she doesn't have to be the person that she is out in the world in order to get things done when she's at home. And I'm speaking for other people, but that's what I wanted. I don't want to have to be strong all
Mhm.
the time. I want to be
Mhm.
able to to be protected and supported and loved and all those things. And likely there's a pattern of not picking the right person. And so that's what we work on. And so it doesn't have to be that way. And it's
Mhm.
really, really hard. I'll tell you right now, Ronnie, it's very, very hard to quote unquote convince the fortress woman that there's anything different, because she's so, like, her heart is so walled up as a protective mechanism, but it is possible. I remember when I was the fortress woman, like, wrote out a vision board and, like, did a vision board. And in my vision board, there was like a big, massive mansion.
Mhm.
And my vision board did not have any type of dream partner on it. It was just me in that mansion with cats and dogs and animals that was going to be enough love for me. And so what I realized through my journey is that it wasn't that it wasn't possible, but it's that I needed to be safe and in some ways know that I wasn't going to get hurt in order to try, in order to have hope. And that's what this work is all about.
I love that. I love that advice and that fortress woman I see often on social media, and
Yes,
I
all
can't wait
over.
to dive into the archetypes because I have a follow-up question to what you shared, something that you shared, and so I'm gonna try to hold it. I wrote it down. I'm gonna try to hold it. Um, because I know you mentioned that women, of course, we're always trying to be strong, and we do, and it's a lot being single and trying to do everything by yourself, and then when you're having a
Mhm.
tough day,
Mhm.
sometimes you do want to come home and talk to someone, talk to your partner that you're with. And I remember learning this from a friend. She's a lot older than me. And I may have been like 30 years old at the time. And she told me, getting support from someone that you are with a guy that you're with is gonna be different than the support that you are able to get from your friends. And she told
Mhm.
me, I can support you here, but there's, it's nothing like getting the support from that man that you're with. And I said, you know what? I never thought about that before, but I'm 30 years old. I wasn't thinking about that. And so it wasn't until shortly thereafter I got into a relationship and eventually got engaged to this guy, and I understood what she was saying. Unfortunately, it didn't
Mhm.
work out, but I understood at that moment what she was saying when I was in that relationship. And I think a lot of women are more reliant on their girlfriends, which is okay. But there is a
Mhm.
difference. Like you say, you can get a hug from, your guy, those big arms around you. And
Mhm.
sometimes you can see things from a different perspective when you're able to talk to um, the person that you're with as opposed to your friends. And
Mhm.
that was one of the things that I appreciated at the time when I learned that, because there were moments when I was working a stressful job and he would
Mhm.
pause in the middle of the conversation and, say, let's pray together. My friends
Mhm.
weren't doing that, or he would give me words of encouragement that
Mhm.
I didn't even think about giving to myself, or my friends couldn't give me. And it would just really help me to get through the day. Um, and it makes me think about the independent woman
Mhm.
as well. And I'm wondering, this, I guess, has the independent woman image just kind of overshadowed everything when it comes to dating. So,
Yeah.
women, we are often like, oh, I'm independent, and not overshadowed, but it hasn't interfered with dating, I would say. Have you noticed that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Hyper independence is a trauma response.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah,
it.
that is true.
And hyper independence is one of the most challenging, deeper level patterns to break or rewire, because this comes from way back in the day. Comes
Mm-hmm.
from way back in the day. Even what you shared with me already, Ronnie, like, you were an adult in a child's body from the beginning. So you had to be hyper independent. And what happens in this whole healing thing that's kind of mind blowing is that the patterns that served us in the past, when they show up here today, they don't serve us anymore. But how do we break them? How do we do it? How do we rewire them and create new patterns? And that's what
Yeah.
this work is all about.
Thank you for sharing that. I know you mentioned just love yourself more is not necessarily the real answer.
Mm.
So I would love to learn more about that.
Well, this is a deep one. So, I mean, everyone's heard it by now at this point, which is you have to love yourself in order for someone to love you. We've heard
Hmm.
that. And we try. We try to love ourselves more, right? But what tends to happen, like, I love taking a bath. I love getting my nails done. I love going to the spa. I love going shopping, all those things. But what tends to happen with this, if we know that we need to love ourselves more in order for someone to love you, then the things that we are quote unquote doing to try to feel more love inside of ourselves, right? Like, this is, I always used to say that my love tank used to have holes in it. There are lots of holes in my love tank back in the day. And I would just keep doing things, keep getting validation, keep, just trying to, like, gather all of these things just to fill my love tank. But my love tank had holes in it. And so it was a constant
Hmm.
thing. It was tiring. And the same thing applies to this question, which is, why does this not work? And it's because on a deep level, this is a kind of a deep, nuanced question. So I'm going to go there. On a deep level, what we are doing to ourselves in order to do things, quote unquote, to feel more loved is of a transactional nature. Meaning, if I get my nails done, then I'm going to feel more loved. If I go to the spa, then I'm going to feel more self love. The truth is that it doesn't work like that, because what we are doing unconsciously is that we are recreating and re traumatizing ourselves on the inside of ourselves by making love a transaction. So, if you've ever grown up in a place where you had to be a good girl, if you ever grew up in a place where you had to be seen and not heard, if you ever grew up in a place where you only received love if you were a certain way, then until we heal those core things, then that whole thing of You have to love yourself in order for someone to love you doesn't work. And what I've realized through my journey and all the women that I've worked with is that for me, and they adopt this, is that self-love for me is about speaking up for my needs and wants and desires. It's about holding boundaries on my energy, who I'm with, what I think about, what I do. It's about showing up for myself in ways that sometimes feel scary, but in the end are good for me because they help me grow and they help me heal. That for me is what self-love is. But that's also why, again, that thing, it just doesn't work anymore. It's good like at the beginning, but then when you get into it, it doesn't make sense because what happens is our behavior, like if we're talking about romantic relationships, our behaviors don't line up with what's happening in our head. Who we attract does not line up with who we think and we maybe know, maybe a little bit that we deserve. And so that's the misalignment. And then that's the work.
So it's almost, I'm not going to say almost, but it is redefining what self love is for us. Because I think that for many, self love has always been caring for yourself. As you mentioned, getting your nails done, getting your hair done, dressing nice. And those things are okay. But no one, unless, of course, you are in a helping profession, therapist or something. And even at times, we know what to do and we don't do it. But
Yeah, that's it.
and so, but it's more so of how are you setting those boundaries? How are you showing up in these different ways rather than the usual that we've heard before or that we currently hear now? And I
Hmm.
think that more women need to be aware of that is that it's okay to do these things for yourself, but when we're really talking about going to that deeper level of self-love,
Hmm.
this is what it should look like. It should look like
Hmm.
setting and holding those boundaries. It should look like really showing up as the woman that you see or imagine yourself to be. And I think that's
Hmm.
a struggle for quite a few women to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Simple, but
So
not easy. A lot of
yeah,
this work is very simple, but it's not easy.
yeah, I love that. You're right. You're making me think today.
That's
I
what I
want to
do.
move into the archetypes
Okay.
and learn more about those. You mentioned quite a few so far. Are there any that you have not mentioned that you would like to talk about today? And I have another
Mm.
question to follow up afterwards.
So, yeah, we've mentioned there are 4 of them. So,
Okay.
the thing about the archetypes is that the archetypes are a journey, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But they're archetypes because we can get stuck in them for our whole lives, right?
Yeah.
If we don't do the work and do what I call ascend to that next level, then we're going to be stuck in these cycles of and patterns that we just can't seem to break. And that's not what I'm here for. That's not what I'm here for. That's what my clients aren't here for because they come to me, right? There's a decision that we need to make as women that are growth oriented and action oriented that I want something else and I'm going to do something about it. And we've covered all of them. The chill woman is, again, she's super familiar with overwhelm and anxiety. She tends to get ghosted a lot. A lot of times she'll sacrifice her body when maybe it's not in alignment with, with who she is as a person.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's the fortress woman. The fortress woman, once again, walls the size of the Great Wall of China around her heart. It's a protective pattern. Then there's the goddess woman, and the goddess woman has, again, done a lot of work on herself. But there's this level that she cannot seem to get to on her own and consciously. Patterns that she's running is she is probably more of a helper, like a therapist, a coach, or, some other helping profession that you're talking about, Ronnie. And it's almost like that her outward perception of who she is on the outside, like on her Instagram or on her TikTok or whatever it is, or even to her friends and her family, is not an authentic reflection of what's happening in her dating life. In dating life, she's
Mm-hmm.
having these patterns that she just does not understand. There's a lot of confusion there. The goddess woman has also, like I said, she's written a letter to her soulmate. She's written out the characteristics of her dream partner. But again, what is showing up is not what she knows should show up for her. So there's confusion. It just doesn't make sense. She's done everything, but can't seem to do it in real life. And that's, like I said,
Mm-hmm.
the goddess woman is just like one level away from the magnetic woman. And the magnetic woman, like I said, is the woman that I aspire to be. And most of the time, like, I'm not perfect. I get, I'm human. I have my bad days and we have our bad days and all those things. But the magnetic woman knows who she is and what she wants. She's really in her manifestation and attraction zone because her behaviors line up with her needs and wants and desires. Her
Mhm.
thoughts line up with her needs and wants and desires. Her emotions line up. So there is an inner alignment with a magnetic woman where she is no doubt a beacon and a magnetic force in the universe, not just for romantic relationships, for everything, for money, for clients, for amazing friendships, for family that actually like respects her, for example. I'm raising my hand, right? So those are the phases, and we all have the ability to ascend to the next level, to the magnetic woman. It takes willingness to be supported, to show up, to speak up, and to sign up.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, and you answered my question, and that is well
What
my
was
follow-up
your question?
question. I
What was your
was
question?
wondering about moving between these different archetypes and if women can do they show up in all of these, or are you getting them like, okay, let's get you from fortress to magnetic, or moving from fortress to goddess then to magnetic. And so I was just wondering if that is
Yeah.
something that women go through all of the different archetypes, or is it just one or the other? So I think I got my answer when you were
Yeah. Well, I
speaking.
mean, it's yes and no, right? Like healing is not linear by any means,
Mhm.
and nor is the archetype structure. So like
Yeah.
in some aspects in your life you can be the chill woman, in some aspects of your life you can be the fortress woman. Like I used to be, I would say, the fortress woman with money, for example. Like I've done a lot of money work and money healing, and I used to be kind of the fortress woman, like very closed off with money, everything like that. So you can be in aspects of your life, kind of different versions, even or people, maybe even sometimes. Like sometimes you can be
Yeah.
closed off with certain people, but most of the time, especially when it comes to dating and romance, you are going to be probably circling the same kind of archetype until you ascend.
That. Thank you for sharing that. So, where can our listeners find you if they want to work with you? Are you on social media? Where can they find you?
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Ronnie. You're amazing.
Thank
Thank you for
you.
the space. Love to, like navigating 40. It's like we need to start talking about the things that no one talks about, right?
Mhm.
Like, or we're just going to be the older versions of ourselves and we're not going to be the women that we know that we can be or should be. So thank you for this space. I invite anyone that's listening to take the feminine dating archetype quiz. It's at datingarchetype.com.
Mhm.
It's a 2-minute quiz. It'll help reveal your blocks to love and help you find your true love match. And that's really the jump off point for anywhere else that you want to find me is at datingarchetype.com.
Thank you so much for being here. I would love to have you to come back and continue this conversation. Because it's a lot, and I hear women talking about it often, and it's so important for us to know that we can be that magnetic woman and work
Mhm.
towards this process of healing. And so I appreciate you being here today. Thank you
Yeah.
so much, everybody, for tuning in, and we will see you later. That's a wrap for this episode of Navigating Life After 40. I hope you enjoyed this conversation just as much as I did. If you love what you're hearing, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And if you're feeling generous, leave me a review on your favorite podcast platform. This helps me to reach more amazing women like yourself who are trying to navigate this amazing life. Thanks for tuning in, and until next time, keep living your best life.